Hello, and welcome to today's session, Harness the Power of Power Platform, 5 Takeaways as part of the webinar series titled Discover the Power of Low-Code Apps. Thank you all for joining. I have just a few housekeeping items to go over before we get started. All lines have been muted to reduce background noise. If you experience any technical difficulties, please let us know by using the chat panel below. We will be taking questions throughout the presentation and will answer them during the last 10 to 15 minutes of today's session. After today's event, you will be receiving an email with the slides from today's presentation and the recording. At LBMC Technology Solutions, our aim is to be your team for everything tech. If you think of a technology challenge or need, please drop it in the chat, the Q&A, or send us an email at info@lbmctech.com. Now, please help me welcome our presenters of today's webinar, Jason Barnes and Cindy Pride. Jason joined LBMC Technology Solutions over 8 years ago and has more than 22 years of experience in technology, specializing in CRM, Microsoft Power Platform, as well as solution consulting and architecture. Cindy joined LBMC Technology Solutions in April of 2021 as a business intelligence consultant. Prior to joining LBMC, she has worked in accounting, custom programming and analytics, database management, and business intelligence, and has been in these industries for over 20 years. Now, Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. Again, we appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today. For those of you who are not familiar with LBMC Technology Solutions, we've actually been helping clients with their technology needs for about 27 years now. We provide a really wide range of services and support as you might call us a technology services provider. We can manage your IT or network administration needs. We can help you implement a new ERP or maybe an accounting system. My team, we can help you with CRM or any of your Power Platform needs. And of course, Cindy, who's with us today, she can do some really amazing things with Power BI that I'm sure we'll learn about a little bit later. So LBMC Technologies is actually just one of 9 different LBMC sister companies. It did sort of start with our original tax and audit firm many years ago, and really just took off and grew from there. And it's sort of like we do have kind of a running joke at LBMC with all these different, just amazing companies. We kind of joke that we can help a business really with anything they can need. We just don't have a way to clean your offices. We don't have a cleaning team. That's the only difference. We've become more of a regional operation in recent years. We have multiple offices, both in Tennessee and in North Carolina. But in total, really, we have around 125 consultants and employees working throughout the country. So with that, a little bit about LBMC. Let's get started with our session today. Our goal today is to provide you with a few takeaways, that are hopefully going to help you better understand how, your business can really benefit from all these, just really amazing tools that Power Platform offers. This is new technology that really can help, you overcome a lot of challenges that you might be dealing with. So, we're going to focus initially on defining what Power Platform is, make sure everybody has sort of a good definition. We're going to talk about really what's driving this, right? I mean, there's always business drivers. Microsoft doesn't just come up with new stuff for no rhyme or reason. So we'll talk about the business drivers behind some of these low-code solutions that they're coming out with. I'm going to try to give you some good takeaways, some key points to remember about the different Power Platform tools, and then of course the benefit to each. And then Cindy's going to come on and talk about Power BI and how we can leverage Power BI against all these other Power Platform tools. So that'll be a great session. And then towards the end, we'll cover some Q&A. So some of you might remember in our first event in this series, we talked about low code, no code platform revolution, right? It's like, it's happening right now in our industry. In fact, it's been happening for probably a couple of years. So in our second event today, we will be focusing on helping everyone become more familiar with the sort of the capabilities and really the benefits around Microsoft solution in what we call Power Platform. So what I thought we'd do is start with a quick poll just to find out, if any of you are already maybe using one or more of these tools in Power Platform already. So you should see a polling prompt there in Zoom, if you wouldn't mind answering that. Give everybody maybe 10, 15 seconds. Okay, excellent. So it looks like we do have a few folks. Somebody's using all of them. Okay, so we have someone that's probably prepared to maybe take over my role today as the presenter, but looks like we've got some that are using it, so that's great. All right, so let's talk about the business drivers. So there's lots of reasons why a business would want to take advantage of these low-code solutions, but I wanted to focus on sort of those three key business trends or the strategies that really are driving the growth, behind these low-code solutions like Power Platform. And number one is the industry terms are the digitization and the digitalization of business operations. Yes, I had to practice that. The digitization of business is, I want you to think of that as it's digitizing, right? We're taking something that's analog, that's, not ones and zeros, and converting it to ones and zeros, right? So a great example of that would be taking, a piece of physical paper, like an invoice or some sort of document, and converting that to a PDF or sort of a similar format, right? Now, digitalization, bit different. That's using digital technologies, like Power Platform or PowerAutomate, which we'll talk about later, to change the business's internal, process or procedure, right? So it involves digitizing these existing sort of analog information, bits of information into these digital formats, but also incorporating into the process. So, an example of that might be implementing, say, an order fulfillment process using business automation tools like PowerAutomate, right? So it's performing actions and steps independently, sort of without user intervention, ensuring that steps are followed and whatnot. So and it's really a great way to promote consistency in any business process. So that would be digitalization, and these are both very important drivers to this. The other is, this is an age-old, saying, is that every business should innovate. So that need to innovate is another significant contributor, in this move to low-code platforms, because every business needs to innovate to survive, right? So low-code solutions such as Power Platform, they really do, reduce that time, to produce and create these new business applications, sometimes by as much as like 90%. I mean, that's a significant reduction, right? So we're talking about spinning up apps very quickly. And these can be used for a variety of reasons. So these low-code tools, and since they make it so much easier for, to be adopted by a business's employees, if you think about it, if an employee has this sort of creative tool, right, they have a clean, like a canvas, they can kind of just take their ideas and just test them, maybe not even make them production worthy. They just want to test those, right? So what it does is it really promotes creativity, and it's almost like it encourages like experimentations, like, hey, what if we did this or that? And instead of having to spend months or years developing an application, traditional means, with something like Power Apps, you can take it and create an app real quickly that's sort of centered around that particular change or potential change. And that's the whole point to being an innovative company, right? So that those things really do spark innovation. So easy to see how those tie in. Another industry trend that we were seeing a lot in the last, say, year, maybe a little over a year, is this term called hyper automation. And no, it's not hyphenated. It's one word. So for the last year or so, this sort of like common business technology trend that's emerged is this hyper automation concept, right? Or strategy, really. Hyper automation is where a business attempts to essentially automate as many business processes as possible. And they're doing that in an attempt to really benefit from those efficiency gains, right? It's this added efficiency that this process automation provides. So something that, first of all, I found this stat amazing is, and just really does show the significance and how quickly this technology is growing. Gartner is estimating that 70% of new business applications will be built using these low-code platforms like Power Platform by 2025. So that's just right around the corner, and that's an amazing shift. And they also estimate that by the end of this year, we could see 500 million low-code built applications. So the growth, it speaks for itself. Right. This is something that LBMC, we're seeing a lot of. It's a significant uptick in sort of the services that we provide, which is one reason why we're doing this presentation today. All right. So let's talk a bit about Power Platform. Let's maybe work on a definition we can all kind of agree with. So the first off, the one interesting point that I wanted to bring up about Power Platform is that it's actually been around in some form, right? And I'm using air quotes, for many years. Microsoft has, and I should say is really a very early sort of participant, right, in that low code platform market. And I'd say it's probably more than 5 years. It's certainly been at the time that I've been here, about 5 years or so. The early tools used in the Microsoft applications like Dynamics 365 and Office 365 were actually sort of a first look at what really has now evolved into Power Platform. But really, to put simply, Power Platform is it's a low code, high productivity platform. And it's going to give businesses the ability to really just build these sort of one-off applications to perform simple or even complex business processes or just capture data. They can connect those applications in unique ways, automate the processes around them. They can build custom websites and portals. We're doing lots of customer service portals these days. They can create chatbots as well to interact with clients or even internal users. And then there's the introduction of AI throughout all of it. So certainly a very compelling platform that Microsoft's put together here. So, and we're going to talk all about it. So let's just sort of jump into really our first component, and that's Dataverse. So Dataverse, I just want everybody to think of that as it's essentially the database. So many of the Microsoft 365 apps and tools such as Dynamics, Office 365, and of course the Power Platform, they're all built on top of Dataverse. And what it does, Dataverse stores and secures that data. So what this does for a business is enables a business to build these custom apps and these sort of automated workflows, but with a direct connection to that data, right? So the underlying data that's being managed in Dataverse. And it's doing this without any need for an integration. So that's a very powerful position there. And so this concept of like a shared database or a shared foundation, you might think of as like a foundation layer, is known in our industry as a common data model. And that's pretty prevalent throughout the industry now. And I will say that most likely, it's here to stay, and it is sort of a way that we could expect that business applications will be delivered and supported probably well into the future. So another component of the Power Platform would be data connectors. And these are the extensions. These are really how we can link this platform to so many different things. So in the context of Power Platform, a data connector is sort of like a pre-built template of sorts. It's what we call in the industry, kind of use geek speak, it's called an API wrapper. And that will allow the source application or service to talk to Power Apps or PowerAutomate, right? There's currently just over 1,000 data connectors available for Power Platform. And one thing I want to, of course, be fair and point out is that in the connectors, the list of connectors, it includes both standard and premium connectors. So the standard connectors are available for free with every Power App or Automate subscription. The premium connectors, do have an annual subscription cost component to it, but they're typically not very expensive. Certainly something that every business could justify. But just to be clear, there's sort of two types of connectors. But in the ability, additionally, though, I should say you do have the ability to create custom connectors for your own unique sort of applications that you might already have, like legacy systems and so forth. For those of you who have, and I also want to make sure you knew that for those of you who have on-premise applications with databases like Microsoft SQL that you want to connect to Power Platform, you have the ability to deploy what they call the Power Platform Data Gateway, and that will allow us to support a connection between your local database and, of course, Power Platform. So we don't leave those on-premise, solutions and applications and software out, right? We have a way to connect to those as well. All right. So Power Apps. Honestly, Power Apps is probably the most vital part, in my opinion, of Power Platform. Power Apps provides that really sort of rapid, fast-paced development environment. And that's going to allow the businesses to build these custom applications quickly, really in a matter of, maybe hours or days versus, like weeks or months or years with traditional development. So that's an important, point to remember is how quickly we can do these things. And it does this by, offering that sort of it does it by, I should say, automating and allowing users to simplify several of those sort of steps that is typically involved in application development, because it has these really, easy to use graphical interfaces, drag and drop, makes it simple. And there's really something else to remember is there's two types of Power Apps. Most, folks that first kind of start learning about Power Apps don't know this, but there's what we call a Canvas app, which is, typically used for sort of those make from scratch type scenarios where the business is, it really requires a more complex, like some complex business logic to the application. There's also what we call a model-driven app. So a model-driven app is using those situations where it's really a more straightforward database need, where we're really just trying to sort of collect data, manage it, secure it, and whatnot. So not as much sort of like the complex business logic involved where a Canvas app would be used. Some of the key benefits that I want to make sure everyone makes note of is that, first of all, Power Apps is highly customizable. There's not a ton of limitation there. Between Canvas apps and model-driven apps, you should be able to just pretty much build anything. It is very scalable. We have clients anywhere from just a handful of users, less than 10, but there are users that have thousands of employees that are using Power Apps. So scalability is not an issue. And as I said earlier, it's fast. So anything that's fast in the business world is typically cost effective. But even then, the subscriptions for Power Apps is not very expensive. It's about $5 a user a month. So certainly not going to break the bank there. The other thing is that it can leverage AI Builder capabilities. Now, I know I haven't told you what AI Builder is yet. We're going to get to that, but it's also a very powerful component to Power Platform. And it can do things such as embedding forms processing. So like if your business intakes forms from members or clients or whatnot, or prospects, it'll process that form, parse the data out, and store it in the Power App database, right, in Dataverse. So pretty powerful stuff, right? It just literally attach a document, it's going to read it, ingest it, and process it. Neat stuff. And the other thing to always remember, with Power Platform is that, just like others, Power Apps can be integrated with both Microsoft 365 and non-Microsoft stuff, right? So we're not just talking about Microsoft only. By use of those 1,000+ data connectors that I spoke of earlier, we can connect to so many of the more mainstream applications that are out there, not just Microsoft. All right. So let's talk about the automation aspect of this. So PowerAutomate, it's really a tool for automating processes and tasks. It's going to allow you to do that by connecting to different applications and platforms. So we're not talking about just Power App or Dynamics. It can connect to any number of those connect other applications through any of those other 1,000 plus connectors we spoke of a minute ago. And then, the point being is that, as I mentioned earlier, this is available both to support cloud and on-premise applications and environments, right? So we're talking about taking data and information or updating systems, syncing data back and forth, for example, or automating certain tasks and steps that used to be manual. And we can do that not just between cloud applications, but on-prem and online applications. So that we can take an older ERP or accounting system and capture a piece of data from this database, take that through PowerAutomate and update one of your online applications or a Power App you've created, like onboarding app, for example. So we can do that all with PowerAutomate. So the one point I want to point out, the key points I want to bring up here is that with PowerAutomate, you can essentially automate any business process. I honestly don't care what it is. It can automate just the simplest of things, like maybe like a sales process, like that, where you can kind of manage the steps and actions, sync data between apps, like I was mentioning a moment ago. You can handle document routing, like maybe documents have to be routed around for review. We do things like contract approval, so it's like a contract workflow, email notifications. I mean, honestly, the sky's the limit. We can do so much with PowerAutomate. And then, of course, as I said earlier, you can link PowerAutomate with all these other Power Platform tools and apps that we're going to be talking about today. Of course, another piece that when I say connect is sort of like it's a pre-built connector between applications. But in many cases, a client will need custom integration, right? So we can use PowerAutomate for that too. We can develop a custom integration between different applications to save steps, to save time, save that one person in accounting from having to manually enter data, into the accounting system to create an invoice, right? We'll just sync the data straight to it from CRM, wherever the sale is being completed, for example. So we can support those custom integration needs. And then, of course, something we'll talk about later is data flows. So PowerAutomate can also be used with data flows to retrieve and aggregate data into Dataverse. All right. So another sort of aspect about PowerAutomate that I want to make sure everybody has some definition around is PowerAutomate. It's going to allow users to automate both like those manual processes, but also streamline repetitive tasks. That's an important piece of this. PowerAutomate does that by supporting really two methods of automation and using what we call flows, right? So flows are really what they call the automation that is created in PowerAutomate. And the automation types would consist of digital process automation, or called DPA. This automation typically involves multiple applications or sources. It can be used for simple or even more complex process automation or integration needs. It's highly configurable, and that would consist of cloud flows and what we call guided flows. So cloud flows are more automated, and they would actually live in your web, like in Power Platform in the web service, and they could be triggered manually. They could be, they could be started manually. They could be triggered by an event or just scheduled, right? A guided flow is really more about promoting consistency in a process. So like I was saying earlier, like with a sales process, it'll support and track the steps and actions needed. And then robotic process automation, what we call RPA, this is really neat stuff. This is something that's been around, for a little while, but it's gotten so much more powerful. And what it does, it's really best for automating those repetitive tasks in what I would call basic applications, right? So an RPA flow, you actually use it or can use it on your desktop. You can actually use it in your browser too. But so it's used in either your desktop or in your desktop browser. And it works by basically recording your actions, right? So every click you make, every keyboard input, et cetera, it's for an application. And what it does is it captures those actions. And then when prompted, a user can just say, do this, right? And click go, and it will repeat those steps, right? Automatically. So a quick example would be like opening an accounting system, like GP, creating an invoice batch, and then telling it to generate the invoices, right? So that's something that takes many steps and takes quite a while to do. But we can automate all that with RPA. So really neat stuff. And you should also know that this RPA technology, it is application agnostic. So it can work with any desktop application, right? And then you can do the same thing with browser applications. So you can tell it to log into a website, to navigate to this menu item in that website, click download, or download a file, for example, have it download a file, make an update, and re-upload it or something. You can do all that through RPA. So really, again, helpful, very powerful stuff. Certainly help with efficiency. So let's talk about Power Pages. So Power Pages, I want you to think of that as a true sort of enterprise-grade low-code platform, and it's going to help you create, host, and sort of administer websites and portals, right? Portals are a much bigger piece of websites these days, right? And the fact that Power Pages resides in the Dataverse adds a huge amount of capability and possibility, right? Because all of a sudden you're creating a website on a platform that has like almost like a seamless number, or I should say an endless number of data sources, right? So none of those though require any sort of complex integrations. It's done through the connectors. So in a nutshell, really, Power Platform, if you think of it this way, you could create a website that's directly connected to your CRM, let's say, your accounting system, your e-commerce, platform, and maybe even your marketing app, right? All in one platform. All those things live in one place, and you're able to exchange data between all of them. So just a few key points to remember about Power Pages is that it offers a design studio, which has some pre-built templates to kind of get you started. You could do like customer self-service, you could do an e-commerce or some sort of portal access to view maybe order history, for example. But you also have the ability to create a site from scratch, right? So it is a WYSIWYG type tool. So you can either choose a template, or you can build one from a clean slate, right? An empty canvas. But it also, another thing I want to remember is this is not just one of those things where it's going to be limited to, its abilities to really create some advanced, sort of website functionality. It does support advanced web development, right? So if you're needing, something that's more, highly sort of custom or unique to your needs, you can do that. It does support, today's sort of advanced web development processes and methods, you might say, right? And then the other point is that with Dataverse, Power Pages can be connected to all these other, like I said a minute ago, you can connect to all these other Power Platform tools and apps, right? Your CRM, your accounting system, your marketing app, right? These are all part of Microsoft 365 and all sit on top of Dataverse. All right. Just a couple more points, a couple other things that I want to make sure everybody was familiar with today. And the next one would be Power Virtual Agents. So Power Virtual Agents lets users create what we call chatbots, which I'm sure you've all heard of a chatbot, right? These things can be configured to do things like just answer simple questions or common questions, kind of like an FAQ type question situation, or possibly resolving issues with customers that require sort of complex conversations. You have to retrieve data from different sources and systems to answer the client's question or customer's question. And from a personal experience, if any of you have ever chatted with Southwest Airlines through their chatbot, in my opinion, they have probably one of the most advanced chatbots out there. They do a really good job, because really the trick to these chatbots is to make them so comprehensive that and so complete that the customer, they don't really know that they're chatting with a bot. So one thing to know is that we'll talk a bit about natural language in a minute, but Power Virtual Agents are capable and do support what's called natural language AI. So that means that they can respond or interpret and respond using sort of natural language. It sounds, human-like, right? It's not just sort of like these, quick kind of closed-ended responses. So very neat stuff. The one use case to kind of think about there is if you have a high volume of questions or customers, or I should say, high volume of questions from customers, or maybe it's employees, right? A chatbot is a very efficient way to handle those requests. And then, of course, if you do the research, data shows that a lot of people these days, especially that this next generation, they prefer a chat experience over traditional phone. For just simple stuff, questions about order status or how do I return my item, that kind of thing. So chatbots are going to they're here to stay. I know some people like myself, it's like, we're kind of, chatbot's cool, but sometimes I just need to speak to a person. Well, the more natural it is for a customer to speak to these bots, the better off it will be. So the one, some benefits to kind of think about there by using a chatbot is, number one, you can answer sales questions, so they don't go, down the vine, right, waiting for a response from the sales team. You can answer those basic sales questions, customer service questions, support, and you can do that 24/7, 365 days a year. And you can always tweak and update your chatbot with additional content, right? The other point to remember is that because it all sits on Dataverse, it's all part of Power Platform. PowerAutomate can leverage PVA can leverage PowerAutomate, and it allows these chatbots to like trigger sort of like back office steps and actions. So, it can say if something is captured in a chatbot, customer makes a request or has an issue, right? If it detects that issue, it can immediately notify, someone on the customer service team or a manager or whomever it's programmed to notify, right? So that's something that is very helpful. And then, of course, being that it sits on Dataverse, that allows it to tie in with everything, including Microsoft Teams. So if you're a Microsoft Teams company, you use Microsoft Teams, you can actually interact with customers in Teams through your chatbot. So you don't have to leave Teams, right? So that's another thing to think about. And then, of course, as I said earlier, probably one of the most important features that PVA offers is that natural language support. So again, we're able to have some naturally speaking responses and interprets those requests from customers. All right, so the last Power Platform tool that I want to talk about was AI Builder. So AI Builder, it's going to allow businesses to use either pre-built what they call models or AI models, which are really bots, or they can create these custom AI models. And really, it's just to really automate, optimize, these business processes and take over some of these mundane tasks that we all do. So, in my opinion, AI Builder, out of everything I've talked about today, has the most potential to, and I don't use this word lightly, revolutionize the way a business processes information. Some clients that we talk with, it's almost like kind of like still in the dark ages when it comes to processing information. It's all manual. It comes in on sometimes paper forms or email, and it's somebody has to obviously interact with it and interpret what it's about and then take action, right? Well, think of these bots, these AI Builder models as digital employees, right? And they're employees that we can train, and we can train them to perform these sort of like mundane, repetitive tasks that we just don't want to do. But it's not just the simple stuff. AI, Builder and these bots can learn how to do a better job and become more efficient. So things like or tasks like invoice processing, receipt processing, or document processing. These are often like really time-consuming tasks for a person, but with an AI, and using an AI model, they can process it in seconds, right? So we go from hours to seconds without the need for somebody interpreting it every time. So another way to think of it is these AI models are like learning, they're like learning instructions, right? You're teaching the bot how to recognize something and telling it how you want it to respond, right? That's all it is. So you get to become teachers, teach your own bots. So just a few key takeaways, and then I'm done. We'll do another poll question, and I think Cindy's going to talk all about Power BI here in a minute. But the one point to remember is that AI Builder is built on a well-established service. It's called Azure AI, right? And that's enterprise-grade AI. Some of the largest corporations in the world, use Azure AI. So of course, the ability for any small or mid-sized business to be able to use enterprise-grade stuff certainly gives them a big advantage. Also, business can build and or I should say can use these pre-built models, things like text and object recognition. So, they can recognize an object through like a mobile app, and recognize what it is and record it, archive it, if you will. It can recognize text. So LBMC, we actually, we're in the process of creating an AI to scan conference badges and extract the name and company name or any information off the event badge and store it in a database, right? So for like conference attendees and things. So that's a great example of using AI. Forms processing, like I talked about earlier, you can kind of see on the slide here, I was taking an application for admission, and you can see the interface is super easy to use. You're basically just telling it where on the form that it would extract the information, and then it would pull it straight into your database, Dataverse. And then, of course, you can build custom AI models. So this can be used to essentially do anything, recognize anything, process anything. So that's obviously a very powerful tool to be able to create your own. All right. So let's go ahead and conduct our second poll. This is about training. And then I think Cindy's going to be about ready to take over and talk about Power BI here. Give us a couple more seconds, Cindy, and then it's all yours. All right.
Can you hear me?
With that, I think Cindy is ready to talk about Power BI. Cindy, we can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so what is Power BI? Power BI is a business intelligence tool created by Microsoft for analyzing, visualizing, and sharing data. Easily connect to, model, and visualize your data to help companies make data-driven decisions. Next there. Power BI Desktop is a free developmental tool, as well as Power BI Report Builder. Once reports are developed, they can be shared by a licensed user in the Power BI service and from the Power BI mobile apps. For users to consume reports, they need a pro or premium per user license, unless the content is in a premium capacity. Power BI can use multiple data sources in the same report data set to build interactive dashboards and reports. Some examples of data sources are Excel, SQL databases, XML, JSON, data warehouses, and many, many others. Power BI can connect to file data sources, database data sources, Azure, and online services such as SharePoint and Dynamics. For on-premise data sources, you can use the Power BI Gateway to connect to your data from your reports in the Power BI service. The Power BI Gateway is a free tool from Power BI. There are two types of Power BI reports. While Power BI Desktop is a powerful interactive data visualization tool, Power BI Report Builder is a tool that creates paginated reports that can have many pages of data and are designed to be printed or shared in the Power BI service. If you are familiar with SQL reports, then you will see that the Report Builder reports are pretty much the same when it comes to developing and consuming the reports. They run with parameters that you can input and then prints out all of your pages that you can go through and export to PDF or print on a printer. It's not interactive, but it's great for printing. Power BI has unlimited uses for analytics. When it comes to developing reports, there are so many possibilities. Some examples which are displayed in this and the following slides are capacity planning, sales, shipping, inventory control, and revenue and expense compared to budgets and forecasts. With added parameters, you can create what-if scenarios. For instance, what if you increased your prices by X amount? What would your projected revenue be? There are 5 highlights I would like to review that I think are really special about Power BI. First one is row-level security. It can be used to restrict data access for specific users and groups. You can easily define row-level security roles and filters within the Power BI desktop. Then once you publish the report, you can add members to the roles using their email or security groups in the Power BI service. Users with access to a Power BI workspace will have access to data sets, so their access needs to be set to viewer permissions. Otherwise, the row-level security does not work with them. They would have access to everything. There are custom visuals, hundreds of visuals you can download from Microsoft's App Source. Many are free to download and use, while others you can buy or subscribe to. Many of these visuals are Power BI certified, which means that they meet the Microsoft Power BI team code requirements. They are tested to verify that they don't access external services or resources, and that they follow secure coding patterns and guidelines. I have a couple of my favorites that I use in almost every report that are from the App Store or App Source. Power BI mobile apps allows you to view and interact with your reports from your cell phone or tablet. You can format your reports and dashboards to display in tablets, mobile devices. Power BI's mobile formatting capabilities can be used to modify visuals so that they are more useful and suitable for a mobile layout, so that they can be seen the way you want them to be seen. Shared data sets that can be shared between multiple Power BI reports, as well as Power BI report builder reports, are called shared data sets. Using shared data sets reduces the time to develop reports and helps keep the data in your reports consistent. This also reduces the amount of server resources required to refresh your reports, since there will be fewer data sets to refresh. Natural language Q&A. You can use natural language to explore your data in your own words. Power BI Q&A can be used by report designers to explore data and create visualizations for your reports. In the Power BI service and mobile apps, users can explore the data using a Q&A visual. If users have permission to edit a dashboard or report, they can even pin the Q&A results. Some examples of natural questions are show me sales from last year and show me sales by state as a pie chart. And it will show you all the visuals that it can come up with that match your question. Q&A also uses autocomplete as you type your question to show relevant suggestions. The next couple of slides are just some examples of some Power BI dashboards. You can create dashboards that can be displayed on a monitor for employees to see the status of different KPIs. Next slide. You can use slicers to select a specific month to compare your actuals to different budgets or forecasts. You select any of the budgets or forecasts and all of your visuals will change. You can select one bar on a graph and everything else will filter automatically to that graph. It's very interactive. Now to the Power Platform tools. Power BI integrates with other Power Platform tools such as Power Apps and PowerAutomate, as well as Power Pages. There are visuals for each of these built into Power BI when you're developing. Power Apps used in Power BI. A big advantage of using Power Apps and Power BI together is the ability to write back data to the source system. Power BI alone allows users to see the data only, but Power Apps provide a way to add and update this data directly to the source. Examples of how Power Apps can be used. You can allow users to enter notes that are written back to a database for other users to be able to read notes. You can update forecast or budget data from inside the Power BI report as displayed here. You can, this is one where you can bring up the forecast data and you can modify the values and then commit the changes, and you'll see the changes immediately, which is really cool. Then you can also update inventory prices in your database right from the report. Power BI can also be used inside Power Apps to display Power BI visuals, so the other way around. You can pin visuals from a Power BI report to a dashboard, and then these visuals can be used inside a Power App. Or you can add a specific report by adding a URL that links the report. PowerAutomate used in Power BI. When you create a PowerAutomate visual in a Power BI report, your end users can run an automated flow just by clicking a button in your report. Some examples of integrating PowerAutomate are to create an on-demand refresh button inside a report. So users might be making changes in accounting and they really want to see the effects right away. They can go in here, assuming they have the permissions, and they can click on the on-demand refresh and see the changes immediately instead of waiting for a scheduled refresh. You can create data-driven alerts to notify you when certain metrics are reached to keep you informed of issues or wins. You can distribute Power BI report builder reports using PowerAutomate. This feature allows you to automate exporting and distributing Power BI reports. This is pretty brief, but in summary, Microsoft's Power Platform brings an entire dimension of different uses, and the powerful data analytics and visualization capabilities of Power BI is that much greater when you integrate the power of the platform.
Right, thank you, Cindy. So
Yep.
why don't we do that? First of all, that was great. And I will say with Cindy, report design and report development it's almost like an art form sometimes. And Cindy's like a Rembrandt when it comes to creating reports. So we always love engaging her in our CRM projects because she does such a great job. So thank you, Cindy. We're going to pop up
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're going to pop up one more question before we get to our Q&A segment, one more poll. So if everybody would mind maybe providing a quick response to this one. I'm curious on this one. I kind of have my favorites, but it's always interesting to know what others think. Oh, split decision. Oh, no, Power BI in there. Oh, see, Cindy, you won them over. Great job. Looks like everybody feels like Power BI would be the most helpful. So Cindy's phone should be ringing off the hook. All right. So what we'll do now is I'm going to hand this over to Elisa again. And I think we're going to talk about, or I should say, see if there's any questions in the group there. She may have already started the process. Go ahead, Elisa.
Thanks, Jason, and thank you, Cindy. Really appreciate both of your thorough presentations. Yes, as Jason said, we'll begin our Q&A live now. We have received just a few questions, so if you have additional questions, be sure to put those in the Q&A section down in the bottom of the Zoom screen, and ask away on anything that Jason and Cindy shared. If we don't get to them today, excuse me, please feel free to reach out to us again at info@lbmctech.com. Okay, so one of the first questions that we received is, does RPA require a premium license?
Oh, that's a great question. So RPA does require a separate or an additional license over the PowerAutomate subscriptions or license that comes with your typical Microsoft 365 licensing package. So the answer to the question is yes, there is an additional licensing component for RPA. And it also depends if you're using desktop and the browser tools or one of the others. So that's something that we can kind of figure out what their situation is there and determine which would be the best way to license it.
Thank you, Jason. The next question that we've received is, when does it become financially beneficial to create a Power Page as a portal rather than using a Power App Canvas app?
Yeah, so I think what really matters there is going to be the administration of the resulting, portal, right? So a Canvas app can be many things, right? You're starting from a clean slate. It can be, it can be obviously an app. It can be a mobile app. It can be a site. You can use it in different ways, or I should say, you can embed it into a site. However, if you think about things like user administration or customer access to that portal, security, all those sort of administration activities that are involved when you have a portal, that's where you really have to do a lot of added work with Canvas apps or a Canvas app to really support that, unless you already have a portal and you're just trying to add some additional functionality to it. If it's a situation where you don't have anything, I would not go down the Canvas app route. I would definitely use a Power Page portal to do that, because you're going to have all of that functionality on the back end, all that added business logic to administer the portal. And I think there's a lot of value add there, and it would certainly save you a lot of time. So yeah, that's my answer. I would recommend, Power Pages in that situation. And I think if you factor in the cost and burden of maintaining a Canvas app to do those things, you're just talking a lot of additional cost and time.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Just a few more questions, everyone. And again, if you have more, feel free. We have just a few more minutes here. The next question is there a SKU for PPU, is there a SKU for PPU licenses that is less than $20 user per month if the users already have M365 E5 licenses?
Yeah, so if I understand it correctly, they have E5 currently, and they said what was the acronym? PPU?
That's the premium per user for Power BI. And if they're in, well, I'm not positive about if M365 E5 is a premium capacity. If that is premium capacity, then you shouldn't have to pay anything extra to use Power BI. So that's just the piece I'm not sure about, is that M365 E5 premium capacity? Do you know?
I believe you get, so the way I understood it is that E3 and above gets like essentially the professional edition license of Power BI. I'm not, well, that's just something we'd actually have to find out. I'm not sure if it includes it or not, to be honest. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Stop the expert.
Yeah. If we can get the contact information, we could find out and let you know. I will say that some of the benefits of premium per user over pro used to be able to use paginated reports in the report builder.
Yeah.
And not that long ago, they changed it. So now you only need a pro license to be able to use the report builder and print, paginated reports, which was, to me, the biggest reason to have a PPU license was that. So at least now you can do that with just a pro license. But as far as getting the answer to this, I think we should just make sure how that, affects if it's a premium capacity.
Sounds good. Well, we're right at time, everyone. So in conclusion, we hope this webinar on harnessing the power of Power Platform has been informative and valuable to everyone who joined us today. As a reminder, we will be exploring these powerful solutions further at session 3, which is the final session of this webinar series. Plus, keep an eye out for 2 more webinars this fall. You should see those on your screen: low-code business automation tools, introduction to Microsoft 365 Copilot. Again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars. If you have any further questions or need guidance on how to get started on any of these items, our team is always available to support and assist you.